Hi everyone. Today I'm going to be discussing the Backdoor Roth, what it is, how to set it up, and how to decide if it's right for you. At the end, I'll also be discussing some pitfalls to avoid. My name is Carolyn and I'm an attorney and I've been investing for over 20 years. And I hope with this channel to share what I've learned to help you grow your wealth. Okay, so the biggest benefit you get from the Roth, when you put your money into the Roth, you don't get any tax benefits up front. With a 401k, for example, you do get tax benefits up front, but with the Roth, you don't get any tax benefits up front. But you still get some huge benefits, and they are essentially that your money gets to grow not just tax deferred as you would with a 401k, but tax free. In other words, whatever money you put in there, okay, you've paid taxes on that money, but then it grows, and when you take that money out, you don't pay any taxes. So, for example, let's say you're 20 years old and you put $7 a day into your investments that you have designated to be either in a Roth account. And you do this until you retire at age 60. At that point, if the market follows the traditional historic average and you're just in stocks, we're not going to get into balancing it, S&P 500 stock fund. At the end of that time, when you take the money out, it will be about $1 million. Over that time, $7 a day, you will have put in $100,000, but you have $1 million in the account. So it's basically grown $900,000. You've 10x'd your money. That happens regardless of whether you're in a Roth or not. This is the benefit of the Roth. The $900,000 that your money grew over that time is tax-free. Completely, you don't pay taxes on it. So let's say you're thinking, great, this sounds wonderful. I'd love to participate. How do I do it? Before you jump on board, there are some things that you should be aware of. There are income limits to people who can contribute directly into a Roth. In the year 2020, for single filers, it starts at $124,000. For married filing jointly, it starts at $196,000. And be aware that for married filing separately, if you've lived with your spouse for any period of time in that year, it's only $10,000. At that point, the amount that you can contribute starts to diminish until you reach zero, at which point you cannot directly contribute. So some of you may be thinking, well, I'm not happy about that. This sounds like a great thing and I can't contribute. Enter the Backdoor Roth. This is how you can contribute. It's kind of like the name sounds. It's a backdoor way of getting in, but it's not illegal. It's perfectly sanctioned. It's set up. The government is aware of it and has set it up this way, and this is why I say be careful with the pitfalls, because it comes at a cost. So we'll go through all of that, but there is a way for you to contribute, get your money into a Roth. Okay, so how do you do this? The simple answer, and it's very simple, is you use an IRA, a plain old traditional IRA. And the way it works is very simple. You set up an IRA, you put the money into the IRA, and then you set up a Roth IRA, and the next day you move the money from the IRA over to the Roth IRA. And if you go with any of the traditional brokerage companies like Vanguard or Schwab or Fidelity, they're familiar with this. You can give them a call and they'll help you walk through it. You can do it online. It's pretty simple. But all it boils down to is you set up an IRA account, you set up a Roth IRA account, you put your money into the IRA, and then the next day you transfer it over to the Roth IRA. And it's as simple as that. Okay, let's talk about some of the pitfalls that you need to be aware of. Okay, so the first is you're going to pay taxes if you do this. So just be aware. And if you don't have a lot of money to pay taxes right now, that's something to consider, because you have to account for the taxes that you will pay now in order to not pay taxes on a larger amount later. If you have the money, then long-term strategy-wise, it makes a lot of sense. But if you're in a bind right now, it's probably not the best time to do it. But okay, so let's say we use the example that I used earlier of the $7 a day to get to $1 million by the time you retire. That works out to be about $2,550-ish, roughly. And this is if you don't have an IRA, you're just setting it up for the first time. That $2,550 is going to be added to your taxes, and you'll pay taxes on it. To your income, I'm sorry. It'll be added to your income and you'll pay taxes on it. Now, let's say you already have an IRA. This is where it gets complicated. If you have an IRA, especially if you have a lot of money in that IRA, you're going to want to pay attention. There is something called the Prorata Rule, and it's kind of a complicated way that the government measures how much you're going to pay in taxes. If you're in this situation, it really is best to consult a tax professional. Same for a 401k. I didn't mention it earlier, but let's say you have a 401k, you can take, and you have to check the rules with, if you're still employed at the place where you have your 401k, you're going to have to check the rules to make sure you can do this. But let's say you take some of that money and you put it into an IRA, and then from an IRA to the Roth, that's, 401k to IRA to Roth conversion. You're going to pay taxes on that money when you do that. Another pitfall to avoid is to make sure to file all the correct paperwork, including Form 8606, in order to avoid penalties, fees, and/or double taxation. It's best to consult a tax professional. So in conjunction with the tax pitfall, another thing you need to be aware of is this is not a reversible move. Used to be that you could put the money in, then you found out at tax time that the tax bill was going to be a little bit too high and you can undo it. Not anymore. Once the Secure Act passed, you are no longer allowed to undo this designation. So if you do go through the whole process of putting the money into the IRA, then moving it over into the Roth, it's in there and you're going to have to pay the taxes. Sometimes the taxes are going to nullify the benefits. It's just not going to be worth it to you. So, just keep that in mind. Other times, particularly if, like in the example I have, you're young, you'll have a lot of time to overcome those the initial taxes that you'll have to pay, so it's worth it. And it's not to say that when you're older, it's not a benefit. There's something called a sweet spot right around 60 years old, where if you're at a point where you're looking at giving, passing money along to your loved ones, a Roth is really good for people who you've heard, generational wealth is being kind of thrown around a lot these days. People who are interested in that and leaving something to their children, their heirs, then the Roth is great, because with the 401k, you have to take the money out at a certain point. It used to be 70 and a half, now it's 72. It may change. There's some legislation that may change that again. So it's fairly late, but if you are at a point where you have enough money that you pull from other investments, the money in the Roth, you don't have to pull it out within your lifetime. Now, when you pass and your heirs, inherit it, they do have to pull it out within a certain amount of time, but at least you have your entire lifetime for that to grow. Sometimes that you might want to use the Roth is when, or the Backdoor Roth is when the markets crash, when your income is low, but uncharacteristically so, or you expect it to grow a lot down the road. That will help you with the tax part of it. If you have a net operating loss, like you have a business and you have net operating losses, you can use those losses to offset some of the taxes you would pay with a Roth. Although it's always best to consult a tax professional, there are online calculators that will help you determine if a Roth IRA conversion is right for you. I'm going to put a link down below to one of them, not sponsored, just in case it might be helpful to you. One other thing that some people use, especially people in the fire community use this a lot, is to break it down so that you're not doing these giant chunks and paying large amount of tax on it. So you can do it in batches each year, a small amount, so that the tax burden each year is not so overwhelming. A Roth conversion, either from an IRA or from a 401k, can give you access to that money earlier than the 59.5-year age requirement. But there are some rules. If you're thinking of retiring earlier than 59.5 and want to get access to the money in your 401k earlier, please leave a comment below and I'll make a video on it. So that's it. That's the Backdoor Roth, and I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please feel free to give it a thumbs up, and also please feel free to share it with anyone else who you think this might benefit. And, would love to have you all subscribe if you would like to be a part of this community. And I hope to share some more videos with you in the future to help you grow your wealth. Thanks. Bye-bye.